It really is unbelievable that it's been 6 years since Black Ops 3 was released. Having celebrated its 6th anniversary last August, it now definitely makes the list of things you can be legally nostalgic for. And in spirit of all the time I spent playing split screen with my friends on this game, I've decided to take a look back at all the wonderful built-in maps that Black Ops 3 has to offer. I'll be reviewing and rating each of the maps individually, and at the end compiling all of them into a little tier list based on my personal preference. So without further ado, here's my rating for each of the Black Ops 3 standard multiplayer maps. We are starting off with Aquarium. I'd say Aquarium is a pretty average map. Now the setting of the map itself is great. It's an aquarium suspended in the middle of a large body of water with a ruined city surrounding it. But the execution itself is kind of soulless and bland in a few places. I do get what the map is going for. This once colorful and vibrant place turned into this soulless and bland husk of what it formerly was. I do understand what it is going for. And the blandness is compensated by the wonderful apocalyptic background, especially the large skyscrapers and the overgrown Ferris wheel. Also the small but colorful still standing displays really add some vibrancy to the map, for example the ship on the left spawn or the iceberg that's to my right in the video. The underwater sections of the map are very lacking though. I mean, most of the time you'll be spending underwater will be accidental, like you missed a jump or something. Overall a decent but bland map. It is fairly average, so I'll give it a score of 5 out of 10. So next off is Breach. This is one of the two rooftop maps, and in my opinion it is the better one. Now, it was a very tough match comparing the two. I mean, both of them are great maps, but Breach's whole aesthetic and design are just amazing. The whole map really reminds me of the Young Nate chapters from Uncharted 3, specifically the rooftop chase scene. At first you'll probably fall off the edge of the map a lot, but once you learn it, you'll see that there are many ways to get the upper hand on your opponents through the many wall runs of the map. One thing that kinda sets it back a little for me is the battlement parts. The whole map is meant to be this urban rooftop that is turned into this futuristic super soldier battlement or something. But the way these futuristic segments are imposed onto the rest of the map kind of breaks the consistency of the architecture for me. Now, of course, during a war, when setting up a battlement or something like that, you don't really take into account the architecture or the looks of the place. It's more about the convenience. But this exact point does not stop other maps from looking like absolute eye candy, so it's not a very valid defense for Breach. Overall, Breach is a very nice map, but it's kind of set back by the futuristic battlement parts. Maybe it would have been better if they were more local resistance or simpler battlements. Breach gets a 7.5 out of 10. Third on our list is Combine. Now, Combine is an absolutely chaotic map. It best represents what Call of Duty is all about. Now in Combine you have one of two choices, either prone behind a bush and spawn, or run right into action and die after like 5 seconds. And that's the charm of it, so despite suffering from a problem that it really doesn't have much personality, it makes up for that with its chaotic and compact experience. And what you just saw me do there, classic trick, running behind that big wall run and jumping out to surprise anyone who is unlucky to be on the other side. And despite what its size may make you think, it has great potential for snipers, especially the two nests at the center of the map. So Combine is a great map and a very compact one where you'll be seeing lots of clusters of enemies that you can mow down all at once with like gravity spikes or an LMG. It gets an easy 8 out of 10 from me. Then we have Evac. Evac is the second of the two rooftop maps, and although it is, in my opinion, the inferior one, it is still an amazing map. We once again return to the trope of the overgrown post-apocalyptic city, and although that trope is very overused, it is executed pretty well in this map. In this case, the futuristic parts are what the map is based on, so they don't really impose on anything like in Breach. And the whole idea of the desolate evacuation zone is great, it really encapsulates the post-apocalyptic feel that this map is going for. Try wandering around this map alone and think about what it's used for. A safe evacuation point for civilians. That really sends some chills down your spine. My favorite part of the map is the one we're getting to right now, the big open part with the windows facing diagonally towards the sky. It is very wide open and makes for some really fun fights. There are two more things I'd like to mention about Evac. First of all, the barrenness of the map. While in previous cases that has been a problem I've had with maps, in this case it's essential and Evac just wouldn't be the same without it. And last, breakable windows. 7 out of 10 for Evac, moving on to the next one. Now we have Exodus. Now, while the map is fairly average and pretty forgettable in my opinion, that, as we've seen, does not stop it from being pretty good. First of all, I really like the design of the sidelines. More specifically, I really like the part with the giant turtle statue. That is where most fights tend to happen in this map. And the part of the map you see in the gameplay right now is one I also dig. This part right now with the collapsed roofs is especially great, because it's very open and it makes for some pretty hectic fights, and also the view is pretty nice. And also the whole Chinatown design of the map looks really nice, but it has a lot of potential and could have been a whole lot more. This is where we come to the biggest drawback of the map for me, and that is the central area. Now, the central area is usually where most of the fighting goes on in a map, and you would expect that it's the same with Exodus, but really it isn't. The central area of this map feels really stuffy and is really closed off by design, so it really lacks a lot to be a distinguished combat zone. And God forbid someone places a turret down in the central area, because then it becomes completely inaccessible for a while. Overall, this is not a bad map, but it is the type of map you play when you've gotten bored of all the other maps. In conclusion, I'm giving Exodus another 5 out of 10. So this is Fringe. Back in the day, I absolutely hated this map. Whenever it came up in multiplayer, I wanted to leave the match, but now I'd say it's among my favorites, actually. The whole desolate, rural Californian town, juxtaposed with the gargantuan space station in the background, makes for an amazing effect. So by this, I'd say that the barn and everything behind it is my favorite part of the map. Just wall running on the train and jumping behind the barn to surprise anyone who's there is an amazing feeling, especially when playing with real people. Also, I'd like to take a moment to apologize for the horrendous gameplay you see right here. I really don't know why I picked the Draken. I mean, my aim is horrendous. I needed some variety, I guess. But I digress. Even the futuristic parts of Fringe that are mixed into the map really do not break the consistency whatsoever. Places such as the railway and the car shop, I believe, really add to that whole juxtaposing effect I was talking about earlier. Overall, I'd give Fringe an 8.5 out of 10. So, Havoc. Havoc is set along the base of North African mountains and in the desert. And it is a snowy desert, mind you. Now, snowy deserts do happen in real life from time to time, but the way it's executed in this map is just kind of plain. I don't know, there really just isn't too much to see in this map. There's a small pond of water, but if you dive into that, you'll most certainly get shot by someone on the outside, so it's pretty much useless. Now, one part of the map that is really good is the crashed plane. Just the idea of a crashed and ruined plane, all yours to explore, is just really inviting. And while writing this review, I got a little idea. Just imagine Terminal from Modern Warfare, but completely ruined. But going back to Havoc, I have only one more thing to say about it, and that is about the futuristic lab, which of course it does have one. Pretty much every Black Ops 3 map has a futuristic lab of some kind. The futuristic base in this map really doesn't have much to write home about. It is bland and empty, but hey, at least it blends into the environment well. So, I am sorry to keep this review short, but there really isn't much to talk about in Havoc, at least in my opinion. I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 10. And now for my personal favorite map, Haunted. It is a massive map and set in such a wonderful place with lots of cool design and attention to detail. Here are a few things I love about this map right off the top of my head. First, the little tunnel. Now, it's very small, a very minor portion of the map, but it really adds some spice. Then we have the water portion of this map. It's actually really useful this time, it gives you advantage, you can dive out onto players, and it's all topped off with a wonderful waterfall. Not to mention the abundant foliage and trees, the wonderful dark oak hunters' lodges, and the beautiful view of the Ethiopian Valley. The central part of Haunted is also very well designed. You're given many ways to jump players in this area. If you want to go from below, you have the wall run. If you want to go from above, you have the waterfall. And of course the two hunter lodges that are amazing for sniper players. Now, everything I've said about Haunted just feels like I've said too little about it, so I'll probably make a deeper dive into Haunted later down the line. I just love the map that much. And one more thing I nearly glossed over is the seating area that is located right behind me in the gameplay. It is a wonderful addition to the map that really makes it all the more cozy. So, in conclusion, Hunted really sets a standard for Black Ops 3 maps, and it is the first 10 out of 10 on my list. Congratulations, Hunted. After Hunted comes Infection, and also after Hunted, we are banning the word wonderful. I've said that one too many times during the Hunted review. So, what is there to say about Infection? It is the simulation of an under siege French World War II village. Right off the bat, the concept sounds really interesting. Now, this is a map where I've seen entire teams camp in the two houses across from each other, and only the bravest would venture out and try to flank the opponents from the back. But I'm not saying this as a bad thing, actually. It was really fun camping with all your teammates, staying vigilant and deflecting any grenades or threats that may come your way. And of course, how can I not mention the satisfaction of sneaking up on one of the enemy's windows and chucking a grenade right in there, throwing all of them to disarray. Honestly, nothing beats that. Oh, and on a side note, there's something you don't see every day. I got a wraps from the care package. Of course, I must mention the futuristic part of this map, and that is really the map itself, since it's all a simulation. This is actually something that really tops off the map, it doesn't take away from it. I mean, the gigantic floating rock is one of my favorite places in the map. And of course, that big floating piece of land is a great place for snipers. So I'd say Infection is the best map for snipers in Black Ops 3, and it is definitely a great concept turned into an equally great design. Keep in mind that, as you've seen, I am not a sniper user at all, but Infection gets a 9 out of 10. We're moving on to Metro. So, first off, Metro is definitely the biggest map in Black Ops 3. The central part of the map boasts a gimmick that is the train. It occasionally passes through, instantly killing anybody who it comes into contact with. Now, the train may help or hinder you from time to time, but it really isn't about that. It's more about what it adds to the map, and it sure does add a lot, both in charm and in meaning. The whole map is supposed to be this big transit station, and the train gives that concept life. What aids in this endeavor of giving the map life are also the numerous stores littered around the map, filled with all sorts of products and details that you wouldn't notice on a normal playthrough of the map. Metro also has a lot of water area, and that can be annoying from time to time, falling off of the edges into the water. But some players opt to hide in the water so you can pick them off from above, or you can hide in the water and bait someone into coming closer so that you can pick them off from below. And last but not least, I have to mention the city of Zurich that you can see in the map's background. It is filled with many skyscrapers and covered in this thick fog, giving it the typical look of desolation that Black Ops 3 goes for. So, I'm giving Metro an 8.5 out of 10. So 3 more maps to go. First off is Redwood. Set amidst massive sequoia trees in California, Redwood is yet another forest map, and a very good one at that. Now, I wouldn't really compare it to Hunted, but Redwood still is a great map to play. You have the left side of the map, as I call it, which is the more foresty section. It is filled with foliage, of course, and has its own river. And you have the right part of the map, which I just crossed through. It is, in my opinion, the better part of the map. It overlooks a massive chasm and is filled with wall runs and platforms, making the potential for tricks massive. The central part of the map is located between 2 buildings. One of them is the typical futuristic laboratory, and the other is a ruined building. And boy, does stuff get hectic in this central area, especially around the massive sequoia tree stump in the very center. I remember that at the balcony of the ruined building, in the corner, there was always someone camping there, and they would get me like 5 times, and then I would chuck a grenade in there and catch them off guard. And as for the futuristic lab, while it is inferior in my opinion, it is still a fun place to camp in. While I wouldn't recommend that, but it is fun. And there is the big shack near one of the spawns. It is a place I really like, although it isn't that major, like you won't get much advantage from it, but it's a neat addition. So, Redwood is a beautiful map, but also a very simple one, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It is honestly part of the map's charm. I'm giving Redwood an 8 out of 10. The second to last map is Stronghold. Yet another snowy map, and this time it is centered on a suite located in the Alps. The house blended with the snowy and rocky terrain outside makes for an amazing combination. Now, I know this is a key point of the map, but the asymmetry makes it a bit weird. It is kind of a take-back from the map, honestly. So it's supposed to be this eccentric millionaire's house, and of course it'd be asymmetric. But it just makes playing in it a bit weird. This is majorly compensated by the aesthetic of the map as a whole, though. The foliage behind the house is beautiful, and also the aesthetic of the house itself looks really nice. Now, the mansion is just one spawn of the map. The other spawn is, as you probably guessed, the futuristic laboratory part of the map. And the lab really doesn't have much going for it. Honestly, it kind of looks like a copy-paste of all the other futuristic labs this game has to offer. The view from the other spawn is spectacular though. The Alps are very well presented in Black Ops 3, especially in this map. One thing that would, in my opinion, make Stronghold better is removing the tunnel before the house and expanding the house portion of the map, because that is kind of the key part of the map and it's really well done. But the current Stronghold will be sitting at a steady 7.5 out of 10. And the last map on our list will be the fan favorite that has been brought back more times than I can count, Nuketown. What's there to say about it? It's Nuketown, but now it looks like an amalgamation of IKEA furniture, and I mean that in the best way possible. While in terms of design it is very far away from all other iterations of Nuketown, it most likely will be your go-to map to play, just like it was for me and my friends. And I mean everything is still there, albeit much more futuristic. The two houses, their backyards, the cul-de-sac with all the buses, it's all still there. And of course, how can I not mention the two wonderful Easter eggs of Nuketown, one of which you're seeing right now. You can choose to either shoot the heads off of all the mannequins, or shoot the arms off of all the mannequins, and depending on what you do, you'll get your corresponding Easter egg. The heads Easter egg will give you zombie mannequins, and an unrelenting horde of them that will chase you around until they kill you, while the arms Easter egg will give you weeping angels from Doctor Who. So pick your poison, I guess. So the fan favorite go-to map that best represents all of Black Ops gets a 9 out of 10. And with that, we have covered every single standard multiplayer map in Black Ops 3. I'm going to be honest, this was very tiring and an absolute doozy to make, but still, it was very fun recording all the gameplay and voicing my opinion. As promised, here is the tier list right about now. Pause the video to check it out if you want. And with that, I'll be signing off till the next video. See ya guys later.